Amazing. Fantastic. Welcome back, Antro AI Tribe. You're listening to Anthropology of AI, the podcast where we explore the fascinating interplay between artificial intelligence and the human experience. I'm your host, Val, and today I'm absolutely delighted to have a very special guest and an old friend join me. I'm here with Anna, the brilliant finder of Call to Action Digital, or CTA Digital. Anna, it's so great to reconnect with you. We go way back to our days working together in Dublin. It's been really incredible to watch your journey unfold since then. It's been a minute, and I remember the energy of our time at Google when we both worked in Google Dublin.
Right.
And I have to tell you now, seeing you um, thriving as an entrepreneur, building your own world-class UX consulting company, you are truly inspiring. And you also mentioned when we were talking earlier, how much happier you are, compared to a few years ago, like 2 years into your entrepreneurial journey. And I'm sure many listeners, especially the former Googlers and those of us who are, aspiring and planning their own ventures, will find real value in your insights. So, quick intro. Anna's background is precisely what Anthropology of AI is about. For nearly a decade, Anna has been a mobile user experience and conversion specialist at Google, advising over, I think, thousands and thousands of businesses globally, actually.
Oh, yeah.
On user-first solutions, through design sprints, through consultancy, through some really, applied UX work that you've been delivering. And now with CTA Digital, Anna's been asking those battle-tested Google, has been taking those Google frameworks and applying them to an even broader audience, and which is super exciting. And today we want to focus on AI UX. So Anna's motto is making website and apps a better place for users, and that human-centric approach is now more critical than ever in our rapidly evolving AI landscape. So today we want to talk about the exciting blend of UX, entrepreneurship, and the human side of AI. Anna, thank you so much for being here. It's genuinely wonderful to chat with you today.
Thank you, Valerie, for having me. It's a
Absolutely.
yeah.
It's delightful. So, the first thing I want to talk to you about is that entrepreneurship and the actual like leap and sort of the why behind your vision for your company. You've been telling me you've described your journey not just as building a business, but it's also an exploration in self-evolution. So finding, and I think I'm quoting you, and you said finding freedom, ownership, building an audience. So after almost a decade at Google, um, how how has this leap into entrepreneurship reshaped your identity as a designer, as a builder? And how does that personal journey influence how your company is evolving, especially now you're doing a lot more work with AI.
Yeah, thank you, Valerie, for this question. So yeah, I have been into building my own business for a little bit more than 2 years, and when I just started, I thought, oh my God, after 2 years, I'm gonna have like X, Y, Z. And I don't have like exactly that, but I have like this whole new set of ideas and projects and other things that I did not expect to happen. So like all in all, like let's say when I was in corporation, right, you kind of like you have your own idea of who you are, what projects you want to work on, right? And Google, out of all corporations, is probably like the most encouraging organization, right? That is giving you like maybe like different things like 20% projects, right? To explore who you are, to move horizontally across teams, right? But after stepping into building my own business, I realized like the world is now like my my whole ocean, right? So I can literally do what I love. I can work with clients that I want and help them because I genuinely want them to succeed, right? I want genuinely to like build great things for users, right? I can say no to some projects that I don't believe in, and yeah, I can hire people and partner with certain like other companies that I choose. So in terms of like, yes, it is a lot of freedom, and I was actually never somebody who was like working in a big corporation and saying like, oh, I want to build my own thing. I want to build my own thing. No, but I just, I was good at something and I left Google and I just kept doing this and people kept sending me clients. So I don't know how this happened basically, but I was really, really lucky to have such a good start, right? To have already a client base, to have a reputation. But now, like again, after 2 years into this journey, I see how much my business is I see what this actually means, this freedom, right? That I can choose whatever I do. And I see how much my business is a reflection of me, right? Because it's still people can't go to Call to Action Digital for world-class UX consultation because they know me. They want to experience my approach that I took from Google and introduced this to the external world, right? We're going to talk about this in a minute. And we evolved and I evolved, right? We started with just like UX consultancy. Now we started doing a little bit of design and really, not only telling people how user journeys could look like, but helping them to make them those happen. So I started identifying more with the builder, with the designer, right? And then I'm also currently exploring AI a lot. So who knows like what it's going to be in 2 years, my company. But what really, again, stays is staying true to who you are, right? So listening what drives you, what's your key driver, what you believe in, what you want to do on a daily basis, and building your audience. So like really finding just the community and the people around you to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. You also mentioned to me that one of your greatest satisfactions comes from seeing clients and partners succeed by working together on user-first solutions, and thriving with a change mindset. So how did your time at Google, and particularly in mobile UX and leading the design sprints, how did that impact your user-first philosophy, and how has the embracing change mindset helped you in both this entrepreneurial journey as well as in working with your clients and empowering them?
Yeah, so at Google, and you may, second me on this, like, the user first thinking was absolutely mandatory, right? So this is what we all learned. At the same time, Google, again, is like one of the few big organizations that is also changing very fast. So internally, like we would always be experiencing change and like, okay, the scope is changing. There are a lot of like different unknown factors, right? And we had to lead through this, right? So now stepping outside of Google, I definitely have adopted all that in business. And it's really great that you're mentioning design sprints, because I think design sprints have been given us as a tool to navigate through complexity as a kind of like as a team, right? So just to give listeners a bit of like a context, design sprint is a design thinking methodology. So you probably have heard words design thinking. So this is the original, the ultimate methodology that was created in Google Ventures by the guy Jake Knapp, right? To work 5 days on a certain idea, and then at the end of like this 5 days design sprint, the team will come up with a prototype of a certain product that will be already like tested with 5 users, and like it already will have a couple of iterations on that. And at the very core of this idea is is like this notion that we need to move fast and we need to launch things fast and learn from, like, first shitty prototype, right? So give it to the users before sending into expensive production, right? Maybe like it's going to be like a paper prototype, right? But even seeing people's very early feedback is going to help you make very impactful changes early on, right? And then you implement this and iterate faster. So like applying this into product, my consultancy, working with other company CPOs, company founders, like is always very, very fundamental. And right now, Design Sprint is one of our core service offerings, right? So I'm helping companies to move fast. If, for example, they know that certain change is needed, right? But then, like sometimes you can get lost into like a quarterly planning, emails and everything, but certain changes needed. And then you get together in the room, you listen to the user, you look into the data, and then at the end you come up with a prototype and then you iterate on it a few times. So I think it's a brilliant methodology that I took away from Google, and I'm super happy to share this with companies worldwide. But yeah, and again, as an entrepreneur, right, like just really embracing this Google mentality of like navigating change all the time. This is how the real world looks like, really.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you also mentioned that you're really focused on like high quality services, like user focused, customer focused. What can you tell me a little bit more about CTA Digital and what kind of services you bring about? You mentioned the design sprints. What are other things that you're working on, and sort of like why do you think it's important to prioritize that set of services?
Yeah. So the three services, at the core of our service offering are the three types of UX services. One is UX audits, right? So this is where the company gets an expert opinion, right? And it can be UX audit of your, I don't know, like key user journey to optimize conversion. It can be UX audit of your accessibility, right, of the website. It can be UX audit of your like maybe some kind of like a long-term in-app experience to keep users long-term. Yeah, and but the core idea here is that we come there as experts and we give certain case studies, links to different research. We have subscriptions to libraries with world UX knowledge like Baymart Institute, Nilsson Norman Group, right? And we always, every single recommendation that we bring, we support with the data, right? With the world knowledge. But UX audits are just like one of the side of the things that the company should be doing. The second thing that it should be doing is listen to the user. So our second most popular service is User Lab, right? And this is where we don't come as experts. We don't bring any expert opinion, but we pre-record 5 user interviews, and that's going to be like actually a mix between user interview and the user test. So in the beginning, there will be a few questions about what are your values, when you are looking for a certain product online, how do you make decision, what will make you install this app, right? And then the second part of this will be like a test, like open this page, where would you go, what would you do, right? And this is usually very, very impactful when you sit down later with the client team, and the mandatory requirement from our side is that they have to bring people from as many departments as they can, right? So marketing, developers, C-level, everybody, right? Because again, even if company does user research, oftentimes like all these user videos, they get lost, like nobody's really watching them, right? Like best case scenario, researchers are gonna watch them. So we make the people up to the C-level sit down and really, really see users struggle. And this is a very powerful format where we act mostly just as facilitators, like, hey guys, do you see that, right? So what do you think you should do? right? Like looks like people are not clear from like what they see on the homepage, or like maybe the value proposition isn't clear, right? And again, the user labs as being a qualitative method, not quantitative, gives you more understanding into the why, right? So that again, that people are so much into the data, and we know at Google we've been always also about metrics, but the data, the quantitative data, I mean, it only gives you just an idea of what's going on the page. For example, like people drop off here, people don't click, don't like, they bounce. But the user labs and any qualitative give the explanation of the why they don't do this, right? So this is a super important format, and it will grow, and it's important in the age of AI, because again, like the interfaces are going to be changing so fast. Companies will not have time to A/B test as much, run experiments very long time. UI is going to change depending on every user, right? So we need to really just talk to people directly, right, and see what they want. Yeah, and the last one, the last service I mentioned already before, it's a design sprint. It's get together to solve a certain problem and co-create and prototype together. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. And I really love, especially as an anthropologist, I love that you're asking the question why, right? Like as you mentioned, with quantitative data, you usually can sort of track the what, right? With the right parameters, that is, like with the right signals. Um, but but then the why, that's really the most sophisticated part. And like that's almost like the black box of the experience, because it usually is a lot more nuanced, individual. It's complex, it's like multi-pronged, it's like multifaceted. So like how do you unpack that, especially in the age of AI, when you mentioned that things are going to get like faster and often more complicated. So like staying in that why zone, I think, is where you'll find answers, and you sort of like demystify that like black box of like what is actually going on, right, beyond like the superficial observable truth. Which brings me to like the second big topic of this conversation, is something that you and I talked about before, and you actually flagged this idea that and I believe we talked about Lex Friedman interview with Sundar Chai, and they talked about the fact that AI is actually transforming the UX landscape. um, and you mentioned that there's this new space that's being created where everybody is going to be a designer, or everybody can sort of be the creator. And I think you floated the concept of like the Duolingo for design. So can you expand on what you're talking about, and what does that look like? Or like how would it empower like the new wave of creators?
Yeah. The Duolingo for design, it was just one of the ideas that we want to build. At CTA Digital, we don't only do consultancy of companies, but we learn from our consulting practice, which I think is the best way to keep in touch with the industry, right? And develop, some understanding. And then we want to also build some solutions and some products ourselves, because we have the idea how a good product can look like, right? So yeah, with AI changing the game, everything is going to be easier to implement, to design, to prototype. So you can vibe code a solution, but then it will be a job of like a designer or a founder, right, to fine tune it, right? Before it was kind of like the opposite. Designers would define things in the Figma, very high level, and then developers would have to like fine tune. Now it's changing, right? You vibe code the solution, but then designers have to like understand what exactly should stay, how like certain things should be, and basically what users want, right? What users want in the final UI. So I think we are currently in the beginning of the era of solopreneurs. Those people don't actually have to be real designers, right? But they will have to have like a basic understanding of what people want, of having a good taste of what is the spirit of the time, right? So basically, kind of like what currently designers and UX designers do, right? But so UX designers, they're just like in the best position to become solopreneurs, to become founders. And this, by the way, has been confirmed by recently the Y Combinator. They published one manifest by Aaron Epstein, and he was saying we need more founders, designers, right? Because those are the people who have this already, the skill set of building products, shipping products, and they have the user empathy, right? So just people who are currently in UX or in design, they will be a little bit better positioned to become founders. But in general, everybody will be a founder now. Everybody will be like, so designer, the design role of the future is the founder, right? Yeah, and so what's going to stay, again, when it's so easy to design, when it's so easy to ship, to code, is the human factor, right? Understanding what people want, understanding the need, and having a good taste, right? So really, like my idea of Duolingo for solopreneurs for on product design is basically I want to launch a platform where it will be like, a daily lessons on like what makes a good product, right? And it's not going to be directed towards people who have any like background in design and coding, but it will be just like all the case studies of like, why is the headspace app, having so much success over years? How many features it actually led them to sunset, so that the real product leadership is removing the noise, right, and keeping the core value of the product. So like having like all of these case studies over years, what made products and companies great, and yeah, so maybe just some basic exercises that people can do on a daily basis. Prototype a marketing landing page. Here are the top like 5 best practices, and here you can make an exercise of like maybe creating a user test for the app onboarding, how you can do that, right? So really, really making this hands-on with real life case studies. But yeah, because everybody will be able to create an app or start a company with AI agents, being able to help with absolutely everything. Because before, people were scaling through people, and now you can scale with AI. Yeah.
Yeah, I love how methodical you are, and you do a lot of um work in the field. Like it's not all theory, but you're actually applying that every day, and you're day to day empowering the founders and your customers to do just that, to like use AI as a tool to sort of already be in that process of like embracing the change. I really love that. I wanted to ask you, so from an anthropological perspective, that human AI interaction is super interesting. And you actually mentioned that you're doing research on how people treat a product if they know it's an AI. So can you share a little bit of what you're learning about it? Like how is the consumer sentiment shifting, and how does that knowledge change the way you design and test the AI powered experience versus a more traditional one?
Yeah. So we're actually seeing like it a little bit of a distrust when people are knowing that a certain recommendation in the UI has been generated by AI, or on the other side of a chatbot there is an AI agent, not a human one. So like if you're a product manager, you need to be a little bit careful on like how you label things. Like, okay, this content is human generated, this content is AI generated, because there is still a little bit of a mistrust. But there was like one study in 2024 when like AI generated text with a label, it would generate like by 30%, like less trust for users than the human generated. But now we see this still changing, and because people start really understanding how you should talk to users about using AI, right? And then what AI features really drive value, right? So if you for example make it like really narrowly focused, right, and then you manage user expectations that this is AI, but it will only do like that part, like and you deliver real value. It's not just a chatbot for the sake of chatbot. Then the trust is growing, and people seeing like really reliable results, and we believe that this will change.
Yeah. And so some of the challenges that you mentioned in this space, you're actually thinking of building an AI tool. Can you tell us more about it, and how would that help kind of work with the proven methodologies, um, like understanding the user, solving for the user, like the prototyping, and perhaps addressing some of the newer problems with that, um, what AI is basically introducing to us.
Yeah, so we have few ideas about like the AI tools we want to build as well, right? And we want to it's not just again to jump on the train, right? Because everybody's building AI tool, but first of all we want to enrich our own research methodology. So when I am giving a certain company some recommendations, I am doing like a lot of research, right, online, with like going into the libraries. So even like, to make sure I actually include as much as possible into my overview, right, like, and why things should be that way, right? So we are working just like even integrating AI into our UX audits themselves, right? So that the process of research, how do you come up with the hypothesis? How many factors should be taken into place? Like, is this hypothesis supported by, again, like Google Analytics data? Maybe is there previous A/B testing history, maybe suggesting that, right? Did we hear some idea of that from users? So, like, really looking at how many factors can support each of the hypotheses, how AI can bring, like, enrich our data. But besides that, like how we were really still in the brainstorming phase, how this exactly can look like. And again, as I said before, for like the rule of any AI feature is the more narrow the scope is, the better, right? So, so we will probably either focus just like on generating hypotheses, right? And like when you upload a lot of different quantitative, qualitative data, and then we will train the AI on like all the best practices and case studies that we have over the last like 10 years of UX consulting, right? So and then really like help product managers to ideate, right? Because this is what will be very, very important, again, like when you like can implement changes just like that, or and the other idea is that we're going to build maybe a tool that focuses a little bit more on research, just again talking to people, because the why is going to be kind of like more growing in its importance than the what, right? So really understanding the context, maybe helping companies to ideate at the very beginning of their journey, right? So what can we do, what can we deliver, and things like that. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you mentioned also that you are expanding the services and expertise to consulting specifically on AI UX. And so, like, that's super interesting. How does that process of designing AI-powered experience, how is it different from more traditional UX design? Like, what are the learnings there that you're discovering?
Yeah, so we're launching a consultation format called AI UX Lab. This is basically going to be kind of like a mix of a design sprint with the elements of user lab, right? So we will, first of all, listen a little bit to the user side, and then to some best practice, and then ideate and prototype together. But what we will actually want to achieve in this maybe like a 2-day workshop, right, is we take the key user journey that the company is having and see what are the real use cases, right, where they can implement AI. But the point of this is, again, every implementation has to drive real user value. What we see right now is companies, first of all, implement AI for the sake of it, or they just implement like the chatbot, right? That's their only understanding of AI, which is fine, like again, like this is what has been booming over the last year. Now everybody is more into agents, right? So again, like whatever is trendy, but no, again, you can throw so much resources into implementing any fancy feature. And back at Google, we were always saying, like, just make sure your basics are right? Like no trends keep changing and so on. But AI is still gonna enrich user journeys, right? You just need to understand how exactly it can drive value. So like again, like making it as narrow as possible, right? Maybe at any stage of the user journey, at any page, it can be like a small thing that like a small personalization, a suggestion, very narrowly targeted, maybe communicating to the user what it does and why. And on the level of the entire user journey, there is this thing in UX that is now called generative UI, right? Not generative. So and this is what's coming, right? So possibly in the future, maybe in like maybe not 5, but maybe like in the 10 years time, again, designers are not going to have that much control over like every pixel, right? But the interface is going to change and adapt based on like all the user history that the AI has, right? So maybe like it's a nighttime and like I don't know, like I need to give a little bit less, I don't know, like images and like a flashy content, and maybe like based on their signals, what the person has been like going through and like looking for recently, is gonna adapt not only the content but even UI, right? So the interface is not gonna look the same for every user. So here it's just for us in the lab is to helping companies to understand how their user journey can look like in this case when everything is going to be dynamic. What are the what are the constant things, right? So what are the behavior patterns that are going to be there, what people are going to keep wanting to do, and what the company needs to keep delivering on.
Wow, generative UI. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And so the concept is, I want to make sure I understand. So the concept is that the UI is going to be generated dynamically based on, the user data, like sort of what they prompt and what then comes out, and creating like this more personalized experience in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And every website will be adapted in its own way, if there will be still websites. But I think in 10 years, still there will be still every different ones. But it will be changing more and more and more, and even chatbots will evolve into something more visual, into something more that people can work with, right? Maybe different widgets, but it's going to be absolutely different for every user, depending on what they do right now and during the day, what they've been like doing and requesting before, the history, the preferences, and so just less and less control over how things look, but more and more about what people want and what they need.
Yeah. You mentioned that you're observing that, user expectations, the industry regulations, and some of the opportunities that you see out there in the marketplace are changing very fast. And so in the context of UI, and you mentioned some of the red flags that you've identified, in current AI implementations, like AI for the AI's sake. It's just because like we have to, but we don't really have like a clear vision for that. Like, can you talk about some other red flags that you've identified and from a user experience perspective, and where do you see that AI is genuinely enhancing the user journey and is genuinely adding value already.
Yeah. So definitely, what we've already talked about AI for the sake of AI, without understanding the user value, and maybe like when it's too broad, right? The scope of the feature. Like I've actually recently worked with one chatbot tool, it's kind of like what they do is similar to even like the chat GPT, but they're still somehow different, and they encompass like different LLMs in it. And we've always been like saying, guys, like you need to narrow things down. What are the use cases, right? So maybe give people different prompt ideas, suggestions, different introduce templates, folders, and so making things like maybe crafted towards use cases, because like it's when it's just an empty search field, people may end up not like searching for anything, right?
Right.
Yeah. So and then what I was talking about before, in like maybe invisible AI, when again, since there is a lot of mistrust yet, you need to be very careful about how you're labeling your features, but it is still a good idea to let people know, because that's how you put user in control. And putting user in control has always been like the golden rule of UX, right? So telling them, hey, like this is the AI generated content. However, we've generated it for you. Yeah. So again, going really the good things where AI really does deliver value is going quite narrow on certain features. For example, search, right? A lot of companies, retail, insurance, like they have some certain like a process of like a booking and engine, right? Like a search enhancement. So if you have the context, different user signals, right? This is a very good place to integrate AI into the user journey, right? And again, like this is being like a very narrow use case, leaving the user in control. Also, personalization. This is like what, in essence, AI is. Tailoring recommendations. Again, making sure you are summarizing this for the user. Assistive summarization is maybe another one. Like, here is your past, history. Here are all your orders, and this is I don't know what all the things you've done. Do you want to do maybe XYZ, right? So given visible recommendations based on the past experiences and summarizing things for the user. Yeah. So and again, like generative UI and adaptive interfaces, this is what it is going to be still a very, very positive thing for the entire industry and for people. And people will be trusting AI even more, right? So, and it is a great opportunity for companies to prepare for that and think about the essence of their user journeys, like what really delivers value.
Yeah, I love that. Speaking about user value and just kind of layering on a more global perspective. So when both you and I worked in Google Dublin, or when I was still in Dublin, I worked in the global expansion team, and I remember when we interacted, you were in charge of UX for emerging markets such as Africa, Middle East, and I would love to hear your perspective on, working with diverse global markets. How does that influence your understanding of more universal UX principles versus like more cultural specific user needs? And how do you now apply these learnings when you design AI experiences that are, more intuitive and more relevant for global audiences and not just for like a specific, Silicon Valley based audience?
Yeah. So when I worked at Google, I was working with Google partners and clients from emerging markets. And even right now, after I left, so my agency is already now, we're a certified partner of Google in MENA on user experience services. So, I'm actually going to publish soon a few playbooks with Google on Think with Google Middle East. And these will be playbooks, by the way, free for everyone, right? And learnings from our UX audits over the last 2 years that we've done for retail companies, websites and apps, health and wellness apps, and fintech, right? So there will be 3 industries we're covering. And yeah, with the cross-cultural and cross-regional differences are so interesting. And I was so lucky to work across different regions because user is kind of like really different. The expectations are different depending on the region and the market, what payment methods you want to accept, how busy the UI should be. For example, like Asian UX is entirely different creature, right? Like I've been traveling across Southeast Asia, like also like working a little bit with Japanese, even like websites. This looks completely different. The culture is different, and the user expectations, like use of the red color, like in Asia, red color is associated with something festive, right? It's a good thing, like it's some discounts, but like in Europe, like red color is a complete like no go or like alert color. So even these things, right? But being partner in the Middle East, I see, for example, the importance of the bidirectional design, right? Like some of my clients with whom we work on redesign projects, they absolutely they enjoy that we are bringing the global best practices, but we also have our like regional implementation partners with experience in designing Arabic interfaces, transferring the English interfaces that are left to right into the Arabic ones, the right to left. So, and these are the concepts of like the bidirectional design, where you flip not only the text, but sometimes the key calls to action, the navigation menu goes in different places. So all these things, right? Then you need to know all these contexts in different markets and the expectations. And in the application to AI, yeah, I think what is really happening, it's a shame that probably right now all these kind of models that are being trained, they're being trained on mostly Western data, right? That's why I think, like again, like you just the ChatGPT made launch a certain tool to give you UX recommendations, but it's not going to take into the account the specific of your region, of your user, and there will be the need to create very specific LLMs and tools that are solving specific problems, right? So maybe for bidirectional design, maybe for just in general adapting, like you upload a screenshot and how would my UI look like for to launch? I want to launch in China, So how would my website could be adapted to be launched in China or in Japan, right? So like really solving narrow problems, and I think this is where the opportunity is. And yeah, like this international differences have always been a very, very fruitful theme.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the diversity and all the richness of different perspectives, this also gives us the opportunity to like build exciting tools, and AI may be really accelerating that as well. And obviously we still have a lot of problems to solve, right? So what you mentioned about like training the data on like a limited like set of parameters that are also like sort of culturally biased. I think that's definitely like one of the bigger challenges that we're facing right now. um yeah, so I have just a couple of questions left, but I think one of the most um like what I'm curious about the most, like from your perspective, is like what are the AI's um, aspects or opportunities that you see um within that, new UX world is like generative UI is prevalent, and the dynamic and more personalized experience is prevalent. What does excite you the most? But also, like, what are the sort of biggest concerns that you have when it comes to like ethical and societal challenges and some of the um industry trends and challenges that you see like in your space of expertise? And how would you guide, I guess, the business leaders and business professionals to prioritizing like what challenges should we sort of tackle first?
Yeah, as a as a entrepreneur and founder, I am constantly struggling myself with prioritization. What should I spend my time on today, this
Yeah.
year? Should I like learn AI, or should I like work on my clients? And what I can see is from my industry, every UX thought leader, every like design and product manager thought leader are now writing about AI, right? And in the beginning, I was like, why is that? And now it's so obvious, because again, like we're not gonna have designers, product managers. We're just gonna have mostly like founders, and so like people really need to and nobody knows what's going to exactly be like in 5 years, right? And then neither in 10. But the only thing that people should be doing is actually just to like get their hands dirty and learn AI. And it actually doesn't matter what level of the organization you are, right? So I think again, like being I think it was what was the book, The Deep Work, that I recently read, like by Cal Newport, that he has a podcast on productivity, brilliant material, and he's saying like those people who can learn how to work with intelligent machines and deliver excellent work with them will basically stand out in the market. Because like right now what we are seeing is like the complete talent market has been globalized, right? You can hire people from anywhere. They can so you really what is going to make you stand out is your ability to ship fast, to do things fast, to execute fast, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, as a business leader. And you need to do this at the very, very, the bar is very high, right? Because everybody with AI is going to be able to do this. So learning how to work with intelligent machines, how he calls it, uh, and doing this right now. For example, in my schedule, I booked every Friday, my morning times is just like my absolute must do to just experiment with AI. Today is one tool, next week is another. Maybe it's related to my core work with like hypothesis generation, understanding, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's even some creating fun pictures for socials, right? And but really pushing your own limits, pushing yourself as an entrepreneur, as a builder, as a creator, right? Because again, you can become a superhuman in 5 years, right? So give yourself that superpower with AI. This is what I
Yeah.
would say. Yeah.
But you have to sort of do it. You have like you can't just like wait and sit around and uh like wait for things to sort of clarify, because again, like in the next few years we're gonna all exist in this ambiguity. And so the best way to tackle ambiguity is to just kind of become part of it and develop your own learnings.
Become part of it. Yeah, try to lead on this. I again, like one of the challenges that I see in the industry is that the big companies like ChatGPT and like the other ones, they will still kind of like get most of the pie, right? Like it's still gonna be kind of like a competition of titans, but at the same time, still a lot of solopreneurs will be able to evolve and bring, really, really brilliant solutions that people need. So lots of concerns, but also lots of opportunities about the industry. Things are changing definitely too fast, and this is what sometimes, when I read in my LinkedIn feed, I become overwhelmed, but then I, just take a pause and remind myself that absolutely everyone is in the same situation and having this overwhelmed feel. So just maybe take a sip of tea, meditate, and can go on.
Decaf tea. I love that, and thank you so much for contributing to the truth finding and bringing clarity and bringing a bit more order and sort of down to earth um, storytelling and examples of how AI is already transforming our world and our business, our organizational interfaces. I think it's really important for us to recognize how UX is foundational. So like everything you mentioned from like the user focus, like how is it to be a person engaging with like your solution, like how to think about the use cases first. So everything you mentioned that is truly foundational to the good UX is going to be foundational to a good UI UX, or like an even what you mentioned, like the generative UI, like all the foundational stuff of like good data, quantitative data, but also qualitative data is going to be critical for doing it right with UI, with AI.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great summary.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's been a delight, and would love to continue the conversation. But I'll add the links to how to contact Anna for advice, or hire your team for UX services. And we'll continue the conversation with you. And thank you so much today.
Thank you, Valerie, for having me. Thanks everyone for listening. Yeah. Bye.